and welcome back to the Film La Femme podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Hagerdon, and this episode is all about allyship. Of course, you can follow the Film La Femme podcast on Facebook, Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube. There you can get updates and find all the latest episodes. And those latest episodes will be out the first Tuesday of each month. So, back to allyship. What is allyship? It is defined as the, quote, supportive association with another person or group. Being an ally is to be supportive and to uplift marginalized voices. But this does not mean taking credit for those voices or even taking credit for making an argument marginalized groups have already been making. Allyship and being a savior are not the same thing and should not be viewed as such. Allyship is using whatever privilege you have to uplift voices to be as loud as yours and letting them speak. Good allyship is just that, letting others speak. And when they say something, you listen. As we know within the film and entertainment industry, there is a grossly sexist and exploitive underground. Many of the most famous producers, directors, writers, and actors have visited this underground and partaken in the activity it exports. And we know these stories from the people who have chosen to speak up about it. The Me Too movement brought many of these disgusting and horrific stories to light and exposed this underground to the public. In this movement, we have heard the voices of countless people who were hurt in this, many of which were from marginalized groups and many of which were women. The problems in the industry are systemic, meaning problems within the system itself. The system is built on this. And to solve systemic problems, the system itself must fundamentally change. This means those in power must recognize the issues and support the voices who are speaking out. The people in power must be allies, and very good ones at that. Because for there to be systemic change, we need systemic solutions. If I as a woman speak out, I am far less likely to be listened to than when a man tells people they should be listening to me. And that's what good allyship needs to be, both locally and within the industry at large. Of course, we wouldn't be having this conversation if there was only good allyship. And unfortunately, we see quite a bit of poor allyship, especially with a little thing called performative activism. This is the most common form of poor allyship I have witnessed personally by individuals, studios, and companies. Performative activism is the act of outwardly selling one's support of a marginalized group through words or trite deeds, but then never fully showing support or following through with real action. People, studios, or companies who participate in performative activism may do so in a way that may not feel performative to them simply because, like I said earlier, this is a systemic issue. And oftentimes, allies don't know how it feels to be marginalized, so they don't recognize it when they're doing it, even if they're trying to be nice. But there are other times when allyship is exploited, when it's better to be an ally for views, money, or to stay relevant. A common theme I see within performative activism is the old, "I'm not like that, I write strong female characters." When they say that, they usually mean what some theorists call the fighting fuck toy, or FFT for short. You'll have to excuse my language there. That is the term used. The FFT is any strong female lead written under a male gaze without any real characteristics of her own, other than, I can do anything the boys can do, but I can do it in high heels, a full blowout, and only smudging my makeup in a way that still makes me look sexy. But because it's a woman in an action role, somehow it's feminist and a real winner for women everywhere. But this isn't the case. This isn't representative, and this isn't good allyship. This is exploitation disguised as activism. It's performative. How can we achieve better allyship? How can you be a better ally? It starts by listening. If a person of a marginalized group comes to you, listen to them. Even if what they say makes you uncomfortable, trust me, they are far more uncomfortable than you are. And this can be hard. Sometimes we have to acknowledge that things we have always loved may not be the most well representative of works. It may mean we have to stop supporting certain directors. This is always a major case with Quentin Tarantino. Many people claim to be allies until his name is brought up, but Tarantino has a long history of poor behavior and has largely gone unchecked simply because his fans refuse to accept criticism of him. Don't be that person. You can love the style of someone's work and acknowledge the problematic aspects of it as well. That's how we grow. But don't claim to be supportive of a group when a person in that group speaks up about something you like or enjoy and you instantly shut them down. Listen and learn from them, because if they're saying something, they probably aren't the only one. Also, being a good ally means being collaborative and reaching out to others when telling a story. This is especially true for writers. Of course, I am speaking as a writer, and as writers, we should write about what we know, not what we don't. We can do our research, but no amount of research will ever amount to collaborating with someone who has lived that story. As a white woman living in the Midwest, I am not the person to write Moonlight. That's not my story, and I should honestly have no say in that story other than I am glad it was told and it was told beautifully. But again, not my story. But say I was writing a script that included a Black character and race and racial injustice as a theme in the script. I need to collaborate with another writer on this, a writer who has experienced the kind of story I want to tell and who can look at that story through a perspective I could never have, simply because I have not lived it. This is true of men writing women's stories or just writing women in general as well. Have another woman read it. Preferably, collaborate with a woman and write her character or her story together. And then have other women read it after that. Don't pretend to understand, because it's okay if you don't. What matters is that we work together to tell great stories. Allyship is a lifelong commitment. We can never stop learning, and we can never stop being kind and understanding with each other. Allyship isn't just something that occurs during Women's History Month or Black History Month or during Pride. It is 24/7, 365 days a year, forever. It is about listening and uplifting voices. It is about making sure people are heard in a safe and understanding environment, that you make a better place by showing your support and allowing others to speak. I hope you enjoy today's podcast, and I hope you learned something about how you can be a better ally. Again, you can follow us on Facebook, Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube. This has been the Film La Femme podcast with Shelby Hagerdon. I will see you all next episode.